here, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about the Ketubah, the Jewish marriage contract, and why you should never sign one without reading it first. So welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marian and I make videos about being Jewish and a mom, and I would love for you to stick around and be one of my subscribers. Just hit that red button down below, and if you like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. So let's talk Jewish weddings, one of my favorite topics. I have a bunch of Jewish wedding videos on YouTube that I will link for you below. I absolutely loved my Jewish wedding. I love sharing about it, but one of the most important aspects of the Jewish wedding is the Ketubah, the Jewish wedding contract, and the signing of this very special and important document, and why it's really important to know what it says, especially because it's not written in English. So it's important to know what you're signing. So let's get into the basics. What is a Jewish wedding contract, a Ketubah? What's its purpose, and what to be cautious of if you are getting married? So a Jewish wedding contract is called a Ketubah, and the language it's written in is usually Aramaic, the traditional one. There are versions now in Hebrew and English and whatever language you may speak, but the actual traditional text of the Ketubah was codified in, I think, 1st century CE, so a very long time ago. And this text is extremely holy and special and has continued throughout time, throughout Judaism, in every wedding ceremony, which of course is one of the holiest moments in a person's life, this extremely connected with God moment. The wedding ceremony is not just fluff in any way, especially in a Jewish home. It is the pinnacle moment of holiness to God and this choice to create a new family with your soulmate. So let's not devalue in any way the importance of the marriage, the wedding, and the Ketubah. So before the wedding ceremony that your guests will, witness you guys under the chuppah and say your vows and read the blessings, before that happens, there's a Ketubah signing ceremony. So usually the bride and groom are separate if you're a traditional, Jewish wedding, and the bride has her bedekin where she gives blessings to her guests, usually just the women, and she puts her veil on, and the men have a tish with the groom, and during the tish the groom learns and gives speeches, and there's singing and there's drinking, and it's so much fun. And then they come together and sign the Ketubah, and then they are legally married, and then there's the beautiful ceremony. So the Ketubah is a very holy and special ceremony in and of itself. Let's get into the text of the Ketubah. So it is not very long, but there are specific points that it covers, and the reason that it has existed for so long in such a codified manner is that there are rules and obligations of marriage. So the Katuba Text outlines the groom's financial responsibility to his bride. He has to give her food, he has to clothe her, and he is obligated to have sexual relations with her. So if you are in a marriage where you are, for whatever reason, not receiving those things, then that is grounds for a divorce. And yes, divorce is allowed in Judaism, and that's one of the reasons the Katuba Text is really important, and we're going to get to that in a second. But it stipulates all of that. It also stipulates the bride's dowry, which is separate from her individual financial things that she owns separately. The dowry is given by her family to her groom. So in modern times, there are definitely those who have the opinion that the Ketubah text is inherently sexist, right? It outlines a man's financial responsibilities and a woman's dowry. And there are others who say, no, it's like the opposite of sexist because it inherently protects a woman in her marriage. So you can be whatever opinion you'd like about that. And if you're not comfortable with the original text and you are having a rabbi from the conservative or reform or reconstructionist movement do your wedding, then you may alter the text and there's other versions of the text that you may use. Another thing some Ketubahs have is some English writing. So ours has some English at the bottom where it talks about the witnesses and things like that. So the English in our text says our names, the date we got married, where we got married, and then at the end it says, standing under the chuppah, the groom said to the bride, "You are consecrated to me as my spouse with this ring according to the laws of Moses and Israel." So we don't have an egalitarian text. We have a traditional text in that it says the groom says to the bride, and that's the traditional Jewish wedding text. I'll read you a little bit of the beginning. It says, Be'echad b'Shabbat shisha v'esrim yom lechodesh Elul shanat chamisha alafim v'shiv'a me'ot v'shiv'im v'shalosh. It's talking about the date, and then it's in the month of Elul, which is the Hebrew month, and then it goes into where we are, who our parents are, and then the specific, Katuba text. And here is where we're going to get into the title of this video of why you should never sign this before making sure you read it. So, in Judaism, the Katuba text is a binding contract. Although in the US and around the world, you do need a separate civil marriage contract to be married. In Israel, you do not. The Ketubah stands for both. But whether or not you have a civil wedding contract, if you do sign a Ketubah, it has meaning in the Jewish religion. And one of those things is that you cannot get married again until you are divorced, right? Just like in a civil wedding. But the problem is in the original text that we're talking about, right, this 1st century CE text, there is no stipulation that the groom has to give his bride a divorce if the Beit Din, which is the rabbinical court, agrees that this marriage deserves to be dissolved. So what does that mean? That means that no matter what the groom did, he can disappear and not give his bride a Jewish divorce, which is called a get, which dissolves this Ketubah contract. And the problem is, without that get, a woman cannot get remarried. So she's stuck in the state of purgatory. The status of a woman in that situation is called an aguna, and currently there's an aguna crisis in the Orthodox world because there are many women whose husbands have left, who have gotten remarried civilly, who are leading entire lives, who pay no child support, who don't support them in any way. And in many of these religious homes, the woman is home, right? Like she doesn't have her own source of income, she's not working, she's taking care of a lot of kids, and he can leave. And while divorce is sanctioned in Judaism, especially for those kind of reasons, like if the man leaves, the problem is without that official document, the get, she can't get remarried. So that puts her in a very dangerous and threatened state, and also her children. So there's this whole other societal component of what it means to be an aguna, and if your children are the children of an aguna, and all of that. The conservative movement and the reform movement added a clause to the traditional Katuba text. It's called the Lieberman Clause, and I'll actually show it to you in my Ketubah because this was very important that we had this. Now, of course, I mean, you'll always hear this when you talk about anything with marriage. Nobody goes into a wedding or a marriage thinking or wanting to think about divorce, but you need to protect yourself. And in here, you'll see, okay, this is our names. Brina, that's my Hebrew name. Bat Yehuda. And then there is this word, da'an. I'm not sure if I'm exactly saying it right, but that clause right there, those lines, say that in the event of a dissolution of the marriage, like in the event of a divorce, that the groom and the bride are obligated to give each other are obligated to dissolve the marriage according to the Beit Din, according to the Jewish judge. So if they have a civil divorce, they are guaranteed that they will also have this Jewish divorce. And that is what protects you so that you can marry again. Now, there are those in the Orthodox world, and the Orthodox debated putting this clause in, but ultimately decided not to. They said it was against halakha to change the original text. And their answer to this is that society will make up for it, right? That a man shouldn't just neglect his obligation to give his bride a get, and so this problem shouldn't exist. The problem is it does exist, and there's been lots of campaigns on social media and other places. So for example, everyone knows who this get refuser man is in these situations because these are like tight-knit communities, and theoretically if you are a get refuser, you should not be able to attend synagogue, you shouldn't be able to go into a kosher restaurant, so the community should ally around the woman until she's given her get. The problem is it doesn't really happen. Personally, if it was up to me, I would obviously never sign a ketubah without that clause in it. And if women would advocate for themselves and make those same stipulations, there wouldn't be this problem. But of course, they're stuck in this you know, societal rules that they would never get a husband in the first place if they requested this. What can you do? You can advocate for yourself. So aside from the controversy of the Lieberman Clause, there are also many beautiful and wonderful aspects of the Ketubah, and most especially it is that it's probably your first combined couple, husband and wife, beautiful piece of Judaic art. And there are so many different versions of the Ketubah in terms of like how they're decorated and adorned. Okay, so our Ketubah is a paper cut Ketubah. If you look closely, you can see the paper is actually cut into this design, and it's by the Judaic artist Enya Keshet, E-N-Y-A, and her last name is Keshet. So I will link that below, as well as lots of other gorgeous Ketubah artists. So if you're planning a Jewish wedding, I hope that this helps. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know if you have any questions below. I know it was slightly controversial on such a beautiful, inspiring piece of the Jewish wedding, so maybe we should talk more about it. Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!